Hi, this is Travis from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this clip on the Political Voices Network.
Look who's here. It's future Senator Adam Schiff on this momentous day. Good morning, future Senator.
Good
Representative.
morning. Great to be with you.
I don't know how that thing happened to be here, but hello.
Hello. Well, I don't know how it got there, but I'm glad it did.
I got to say, your tweet, you just said the indictment of a former president is unprecedented, but so too is the unlawful conduct in which Trump has been engaged. A nation of laws must hold the rich and powerful accountable, even when they hold high office, especially when they do. To do otherwise is not democracy. I, of course, thought of you. I mean, you have been at the forefront just talking about justice and democracy for the longest time. I just have to ask how you felt. Where were you when you found out, and how did it make you feel?
I was at home when I got the news sent to me by my staff, and I felt that at long last there may be some accountability, that this is an affirmation that no one is above the law, that the law should apply equally to everyone. If Michael Cohen had to go to jail because he was directed in a scheme, a hush money payment scheme, then why does the guy who did the directing get a pass?
Right.
That always nagged at me, but it looks like he will be held to the same standard that Michael Cohen was, and that's as it should be. I do think that the far more serious charges are the ones being considered by the Justice Department. I wish they had moved with more urgency, because ideally you try the strongest, most serious charges first. But they have taken as long as they have, and what the Manhattan DA has to do is follow the evidence in New York. And when they have the evidence, they bring the charges, and that appears to be what they did.
Interesting you bring that up. I just was talking to Glenn Kirschner about that. Does this put more pressure, I don't know what you want to call it, more of a spotlight on the DOJ, in that we know that it was Bill Barr that stopped this prosecution at the federal level, but I'm just curious why you think Merrick Garland's Justice Department did not take this up. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Does this the fact that there clearly appears to be so much evidence, and if CNN reporting is correct and it's over 30 counts, I think that does bring to bear like what's going on at the DOJ and what is going on these other charges, right?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Barr, because Barr of late has been masquerading as some defender of democracy because he finally found a line he wouldn't cross. But he crossed so many lines as the Attorney General, interfering with criminal cases like that in the Southern District of New York involving hush money payments, interfering in the case of Roger Stone and Mike Flynn to make one case go away and the other to reduce their sentence and ultimately obtain a pardon, as well as to weaponize the Justice Department, the whole fiasco of the Durham investigation. So he tragically and terribly politicized the Department of Justice. And I think part of what Merrick Garland is responding to is the desire to reestablish the department's reputation for independence, which is laudable. But if you take it too far, it confers a kind of immunity on the former president. And I think for a long time, the department was loath to investigate those who were most responsible for January 6th and focused too much on those that were the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
I think that's changed, especially with the special counsel, but it's taken a long time to get here.
Yeah. I was thinking of you again, because you must take special, I don't know what it is, vindication, satisfaction in the fact that this was in the Mueller report. For as much as they keep saying, as Barr mischaracterized the Mueller report, this was in there. This was one of the things in there, the Stormy Daniels hush money payment, right?
Well, they certainly focused on a variety of allegations, but their primary focus was, of course, on the Russian interference in the election, the Trump ties to Russia, and that was really the primary focus of Mueller's work. Where I was, concerned, frankly, with the Mueller report and the scope of the investigation is Mueller, for the most part, did seem to observe the red line that Donald Trump drew, and that is not to look at Donald Trump's finances, not to look at the Deutsche Bank records, not to determine whether he was laundering Russian money, and that was part of the compromise. And so I think that investigation was incomplete.
Yeah.
And of course, Trump did, with respect to our investigation in Congress, what he has done so often, which is delay until you could deny any form of justice. But those delays have seemed to come to an end, at least in Manhattan.
I mean, you've also sort of made the point. He appears to have made his entire party lawless. You know, they're all out there defending him yesterday. I mean, this ridiculous grandstanding by Ron DeSantis. You said in a single statement, Ron DeSantis advanced anti-Semitic lies, attacked the rule of law, and displayed shameless duplicity. This is what it takes to compete in a party that has abandoned all principles save ambition and scruple. Trump has been indicted. Trumpism presses on. And that, is of clear and present danger, right? I mean, particularly with him continuing to incite violence.
It really is. I mean, you look at the top two contenders for the Republican nomination, one who's just been indicted and the other who is saying, I won't extradite him. And what's more, Ron DeSantis, by invoking George Soros' name twice in that message, is basically saying, I can be just as anti-Semitic as anyone else. I'm going to bring in, this whole kind of Jewish financing conspiracy theory. Because apparently to try to claim leadership in the Republican Party of Donald Trump, you have to blow the dog whistles of bigotry. And the idea that this was once a party of law and order that's now going into jail to celebrate and with people who beat police officers or join a choir with them. This is where the GOP has been led by Donald Trump. And it's not the end of the road yet. I mean, they're still in a downward trajectory, and who knows where it ends.
Yeah, Representative, does it give you, more hope on the, Georgia and the DOJ cases that, as Glenn Kirschner always calls it, someone has taken the maiden legal voyage now, and when, one right-winger said, well, now we've crossed the Rubicon, I guess he meant it in a bad way. To me, we mean it in a good way, that, yes, we are finally living up to our principles that no one is above the law in America, right?
I think that's right. This is someone in Donald Trump who his whole life seems to have been a serial liar, serial lawbreaker, and it's worked for him. It got him to the highest office in the land. Yeah. And he has escaped accountability every time. There's no guarantee he won't escape accountability here, but given the evidence that is mounting in Georgia with respect to his apparent and alleged obstruction in Mar-a-Lago, and of course the most serious charges that we displayed a lot of evidence of in those hearings, the January 6 hearings, the multiple efforts to overturn the election.
Republicans say they won't cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. But can honest, hard-working middle-class Americans really believe what these politicians say? Republicans said they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Here's what Supreme Court Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett said during their Senate confirmation hearings.
Roe v. Wade. It is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. A good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court.
Roe v. Wade. It's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court.
Roe is not a super precedent, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Well, we saw how that turned out. They played us for fools. Tell your elected officials to keep their hands off of our Social Security and health care benefits. Fool me once. Let Majority Rule was responsible for this message. LetMajorityRule.org is a project of the Marvin Lucas Super PAC, which is responsible for and paid for this ad and is not affiliated with or authorized by any political campaign or candidate or candidates committee.